You got a new backdrop there.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Smile for the pin. What's that called? Pin.
All right, man. I think we are live. Welcome everyone to the weekly live podcast for real estate investors here in Chicago market and landlords. So we are doing Chicago landlord secrets once a week. We're going on, I think we've been doing for about almost 3.5 months now. So congrats to us on getting that many successful recordings in a row. I'm proud of us. So how are you doing today, Tim?
Doing good. I think the live aspect helps, right? Like you can't, if you miss it, you're screwed. So there's no no room for moving around too much. So that helps.
Yeah, and then I don't want to let you down. Or I don't want to be the guy that has to reschedule either. So, but man, what's going on, man? I mean, I feel like there's so much going on. You know, there's some topics that came up even this morning at yours and my mastermind. What should we talk about here first?
You know what? I actually want to. We'll break away from Chicago a little bit, but I want to say this because I have a question for you after I bring it up. But I sent you that meme yesterday about New York. It wasn't a meme; it was an actual post. But so New York actually froze evictions for it being too hot outside. A couple days ago, on the 19th, I believe. We all know that Chicago has the freeze. And we're talking about freeze on evictions. We mean the sheriff's actually coming out and doing the evictions. So Chicago has the freeze in December, or if it gets too cold. But have you ever heard of anyone doing it because it's too hot? I mean, you think Florida or Texas would have been there already if that was a thing.
Well, I'll tell you this. My first reaction was like pissed. And I was pissed because, are you serious? Is that hot in New York and we haven't gotten that heat yet? Like, that was my first reaction. Like, how is it even possible yet?
It's freaking 50 here, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I actually don't mind this weather, but it's like, oh man, like I could be swimming. Like, why is that weather not here? That was my first thought of like, did I miss something? But secondly, yeah, no, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. Like, if there's, I understand what they're trying to do now. New York has really, especially New York City, has taken things to an extreme, and I'm very grateful we're not there. And I hope we never end up anywhere close to that. But that is crazy, man. That's just ridiculous.
Just let you know that the record high for them, what they hit, was 97 on the 19th.
And the reality of it is, there's a good chance that the unit that they're renting from only had maybe a window unit or no AC at all either. I mean, there's still a 20% chance that they didn't even have AC in their unit. So,
or can you imagine if we got hit? Because if Chicago all of a sudden was at 95, my boilers are still on because you can't legally turn them off until next week. Yeah, and you know the boilers are going to have issues like with overrunning and not shutting off when they're supposed to. So, man, people, yeah, like you said, I'd rather be out of the apartment than in it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's crazy. I hopefully no one from it's the judges that make that call in the county. So hopefully no one's listening to this and making that call or heard about that. But the other thing that we went back and forth on yesterday was kind of the crackdown that they're doing with Section 8. I know you've talked about this in the past, but I mean, do you think they have the manpower or the ability to really kind of dive in and see who's fraudulently underreporting and doing all that? Or do you think that's just headlines? Or maybe tell us about the headline first, I guess. And then
you sent it to me. So it was basically that, and this has been going on. This has been one of Trump's initiatives, and the Doge initiative. Was it Doge, or what was Elon's thing that started and then quit and then never really did anything? But Department of whatever, I think it was Doge. Trying to find out where we're overspending money, and I'm all for it if you could do it in a good way. But yeah, I just don't think there's the manpower. I don't think there's the willpower. I mean, we can't even get a CHA person to run CHA properly without having to do all these audits. I just heard another story from someone that a CHA tenant passed away and no one knew for like 2 months or 3 months. And then it's like, okay, now what happens? How do we clear this? And CHA is not keeping track of the tenants or anything. So you expect them to know or do anything with extra people in there?
Well, here, I got a story to that. First off, just to summarize, the article was talking about not going in and researching fraud, such as tenants underreporting the income they have coming to a household. So they made a reference in there, more of like, hey, you're paying $200 for rent, but you have a $900 BMW car payment. They also talked about people living in the house that should not be, that are that they might have income, because technically you can have someone live with you as a Section 8 voucher holder, but you have to report their income, which ultimately a lot of times that then reduces their benefits, or they have to pay more rent, so they just don't report them. So that was the other thing, and that even includes that. It's not even just like the spouse or anything like that. That also is like the grandkids that might be living there, that, I'm not counting for my voucher, but they're still living there for free, and maybe my daughter is as well too. So that's what they're trying to crack down on in that sense. But man, I had a situation like this last year, 10 times worse. So we literally, so everyone knows that you get payments from Section 8, or not everyone knows, but on the 1st and the 15th, you get, that's when they do their payouts. The 1st is your normal rent, and 15th might be, maybe a new tenant moved in, they're finally getting the stuff processed, or it's just, if they missed the first payout, you get it on the second one in the mid-month. But all of a sudden, on one of our payouts, they pulled back like $27,000. Now we have enough, I think our total Section 8 tenant income that we have on a monthly basis somewhere 150 or something like that. So they pulled that back, and we're like, whoa, what is this? And they said, they let us know that Mrs. Whatever her name was passed away 17 months ago, and we're pulling back everything from that. Now we signed a lease renewal in that time as well too. Now what we didn't know was the daughter took over the basically the email account, took over everything, signed on her behalf, did all those things that ultimately just let it, we went over there, mom's at work, or mom's traveling, like we just didn't see we just call it Miss Jones, just because you're only you're only there a handful of times a year, and she's busy, like we're not, it could happen. But we had it. That was a bitch of a fight with CHA to be able to justify, like, hey man, you can't take that much money back. Like, this was sort of, you actually recertified that the dead tenant in that time frame. So
what was the outcome of that? I'm curious. Did you guys
we ultimately ended up losing, I think, about half or whatever. They only gave us a portion of it back, and then that turned into a battle then with my client, because I could see a level of like, hey man, that you have you're responsible kind of overseeing, but it's like, man, like that I don't know how we could have avoided that, other than like doing like occupancy check's not even the right word. It's like tenant verification.
Because you're still occupying. It wasn't empty ever.
It wasn't. And the person continued to tell us that the tenant actually signed the contract. So we thought. So that was a crazy scenario where it's like, man, that and they got that money back, and ultimately our client was the one that really ended up paying for that big time.
And then they wonder why people don't want, why there's such a negative effect sometimes on CHA. Like, I don't think it's really the tenants that, as a landlord, that I could care about. Like in a negative way, it's these programs. And to that point, what is going to happen? Let's say that Trump gets his way, and they actually say, hey, we need to do these checks now, and they go in and see, hey, your tenant, who, by the way, legally by HUD guidelines and federal law for fair housing, or Illinois law for fair housing, you can't decline based on income. Based on credit is iffy still, but it's leaning towards you can't decline them because the government has already approved them. But then we're going to pull back a year of income when we determine that they've been having their boyfriend live there.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm a firm believer of I could argue either way. I imagine you could too. I think you have your own properties that have Section 8 tenants. I think there's lots of good that comes from it. It just has to be managed in a totally different way, in order to make sure you make money and be able to. Because I did an article recently on this, and it was along the lines of the tenancy is longer, more predictability. Your Section 8 tenant will never just leave in the middle of the night. It might take a little longer to get them in, but they're going to stay there probably. I think how I broke down our numbers of our experience, I think it was an average of like 17 months longer or something like that. It was pretty considerable. So there are a lot of benefits to it.
Did you see the current lawsuit again? I don't know. I forgot to send this to you, but I was scrolling Facebook and saw it. CHA is being sued by a tenant because it took them almost 18 months to let her move because the process was that long and she was being abused and trying to get away from an abusive boyfriend, etc.
Oh wow, no, I
And
did not see that.
and it wouldn't go. So like the problem is it's not just for landlords. The problem for tenants, it's not good for tenants either because they're forced to. Part of the reason they stay so long is it's such a bitch to move and to get approved and to get an apartment approved. They can't just say, "Hey, I'm going to move out on the first and then go find an apartment like a market tenant can." They got to go through a process. They have to get it approved. The number of times that we've had, and this is why on the south side in the heavy Section 8 areas, we don't do any kind of pre-leasing because we'll get a tenant that tells us they're moving out in 60 days and then their apartment doesn't get approved. They can't move. CHA is still, then we have to go and get them to sign the paperwork that they're still there for another month as they're trying to get another apartment. So to pre-lease that'd put us in a crazy spot because we don't know when they're going to leave.
Yeah, you can have it. So we measure our move outs to move in 4 different ways. We measure it from a market tenant moving out and a market tenant moving in. We measure it from a Section 8 moving out, market moving in, Section 8 moving out, Section 8 moving in, and then Section 8 moving out, market moving in. So how many days vacant, right? For a Section 8 tenant moving out and a Section 8 tenant moving in is our longest time frame, and it's like 89 days. Because us, most market leases, the end of the month, you could bank if they're gonna move out, 98% chance that you're gonna show up on the first of the month, they'll be gone. You could move someone in if it's ready enough, but like you said, I never really count a Section 8 resident out till they physically moved out because I've watched them pass the inspections. And then it still fall apart, or they make the second inspection and the inspection never passes, and then ultimately they're back to square one and they have to go resubmit their paperwork somewhere else. They give up and they just say, "Screw it, I'm going to resign with you." So we do try to capture, take advantage is the wrong word, but we do try to find opportunity in that to be able to renew a tenant. Like, hey, listen, I know that didn't work out. How about we replace the fridge here, which you were complaining about being older, and then you sign another release. So there is opportunity, even when your Section 8 tenant does leave, to still maybe try to
save them.
Yeah. So,
no, for sure.
What are you? I know you were messing around with some of the crime stats and all that stuff. I went and did my own in DuPage County. I was curious if you've done anything more with that.
Not yet. My next post on that is going to be since the first post we did, it's published and everything, so you guys can go on our site on the blog and see it. The next crime post is the actual one that I'm more excited about, is to do year over year and sort of see the change, because I'm very curious to see if we're tracking that and can see that crime rate is going down 10% or 20% a year in certain areas. Is that going to be a sign that then the houses are going to accelerate their appreciation? So I'm curious to see that correlation. So that's my next research project. I'm currently waiting on Claude to I hit my 5-hour max, so I gotta wait till 3 to hit the OK button and finish the project. But we are getting there. Hopefully next week I'll have that more information on that. But it's going to be an interesting research there.
I did too, and I feel mine was less interesting because I figure you're messing with the city. I'll mess with DuPage County, and I did a couple things in the where crime is falling fast, like where it's most improved in DuPage County. And now when you look at DuPage County stats, just compared to the nation, it's like a third like of like any of the nation metrics, whatever. But what do you think? So I did too. I did the article kind of ranked from safest to I don't know. I want to make sure I don't say anything wrong, but safest to most likely something could happen type, or highest risk to lowest risk. What do you think was the safest DuPage County city based on violent rate or property crime per 100,000 people?
All right, hold on. Let's see. Hold on. I always DuPage and Will always confuse me, so I got to make sure
I guess, yeah, I take it for granted being a suburb guy. I know wherever.
Okay, so all right, I was right. I just didn't want to say it out loud and be wrong, but I'm gonna go Naperville.
No. Now, majority of Naperville is in Will County. That was one thing I never realized I was doing the study, but Naperville is per 100,000, which they're one of the few that actually have 100,000. They end up falling 15th on the map, on the ranking.
15th safest or least safe?
15th safest out of all of them.
Any idea how many? I don't know if you did the whole list, but how many towns are in DuPage County?
Well, so I ended up having 23 on the list. Like there's some, like there's a part of Chicago right there by O'Hare that's technically DuPage County. So like there's a couple little slivers of like some of these other I'm trying to think of another example that are in it that I just removed altogether. But so I did it off 23 cities that were wholly or majority inside of DuPage County. Like Bartlett's majority DuPage County, so I kept it.
I had to pull up a list here to see, but I'm gonna guess. Let's see, Oak Brook maybe, or does the mall get hit too much?
Oak Brook is on there, but it's not the top one. So the top three. So Warrenville, which is a very small town, there's only 15,000 people in there, but they were number one. Burr Ridge was number two, and Bartlett was number three.
There you go. Nice.
But the cities where crime has been worse, but it's improved over a 5-year average. The best city was Addison. That's where I grew up with. So I was happy to see that. But on Addison, when you look at where it ranks on the safest, they're at 22. So like they had nowhere to go but up.
Where was Wheaton on these lists?
So Wheaton was that Wheaton came up as number 8. But Wheaton was also the number 2 as far as most improved.
Nice.
So, but
That's
again,
that's
these
still
numbers. Yeah, these numbers compared to the state or federal average are like
so low. Yeah.
They're so low. So like as I was done wrapping up kind of this and put it in writing and kind of tweaked it, it's like I don't know if this is that interesting because it's not like that moving. So.
It isn't. It isn't. I mean, it's not as like shocking, but also like the little tweaks, make things are. I think it points out that hey, this is an area to invest in because of that. If you guys know my story, I grew up in the south side of the city, went to Curie High School in the middle of the city, and hung out there my whole life. And then we moved out to the suburbs, and me and my wife are both grew up in the city, and we make fun of like the changing to the suburbs all the time. Like the other day, we saw a Orland Park posted something about their police department that they have a service if you're going on vacation, they'll drive by your house a couple times a day, just to check on it for you for free. I could not imagine Chicago having that kind of time, or which is just yep. This is a suburb. Like people they don't have anything to do. They're not getting 100 murders a day to figure out. So
that would be a fun phone call to make and record, like calling the police station, like, hey, I just want to see if you guys offer the service. I'm going, like, that'd be a fun, like, call the CPD.
Yeah.
and
I heard about Orland Park doing it. Could you guys do it?
Yeah, that'd be a fun one. That'd be a fun one.
That would be interesting. I mean, I've called the one time we had this is a good story. We had a bricklayer, I guess. Who does tuck pointing? Would that be a bricklayer still?
A masonry, yeah.
Masonry, there you go. We had a masonry doing tuck pointing, and we had a tenant who obviously had some mental problems or mental illness and stuff like that. But he came out and for some reason got into a fight with the masonry on a ladder and decided to set the porch that the ladder was on fire, trying to trap the masonry on the ladder. I guess I don't really know the logic there. But like we called the cops, and like obviously we got there and put out the fire. We got the fire out, and as we're calling the cops, it wasn't that big of a fire yet. The cops like drove by, and then like kept driving, and like went into a parking lot and just sat there. And I saw them, so I like walk up to them like, hey, we called the police a while ago. Like, are you guys on sign? They're like, yeah, we didn't see a fire. Yeah, we put it out, dude. Can you come and at least talk to us and like figure this out? And then it was basically like they came and they're just like, yeah, we got nothing. Like, there's nothing we can really do. Like, the fire is not active. We can't do anything for you. You can go make a police report at the station if you want. It's, the different levels of service between the suburbs and that. But my Wheaton story / my intro to property management, I like to tell is, I obviously we do a lot of C&D class, and we had one client very early on that had a multi-unit building in Wheaton. So to get his other properties, we took the Wheaton one on too. And first death I had to deal with was the ex-boyfriend / baby daddy of one of our tenants ODing in the laundry room. or in a closet in the laundry room, I guess. But either way, that's not important. But the funniest part about that was, we hired a what's it called, bio cleaner or whatever to clean up the mess.
Biohazard
Biohazard company that had to come out and clean up the mess. And the guy's like, oh, after he was done, he gave me a coupon for like 20% off the next service. And this is me. I'm 3 months into doing property management. I don't own a company yet. This is me still learning. I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm not going, like, I'm hoping I don't need to use this again. We called them for the same building like 6 months later and used the coupon.
You used the coupon. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
And that was I guess this is part of property management. That unfortunately was an elderly lady or man, I forget what it was, but it was like a less sad death. I don't know. I guess they're all sad, but you know what I mean? More expected. But
all right, we'll move on to make sure no one took that out of context. But it's just a good tip though for anybody that is anyone following here. Landlord tip, like, if you do this long enough, you're gonna have something happen. You're gonna have somebody die in an accident, someone die on purpose. You're gonna have some blood situation. Unfortunately, we've had a handful of people that end their own lives around the holidays. That's usually when it happens. And you never want to send your own guys in there just for trauma reasons. But two, there's services specifically that are licensed to clean up, because any sort of human matter is technically a biohazard, and you want to make sure you take care of that correctly. So most restoration companies do it, but if anyone ever needs somebody, which I hope you don't, but if you do this long enough, you will. I would say it's similar to get sued. If you haven't been sued, you haven't been doing it long enough. It will happen. But make sure that you do. There are people that call that specialize that, and they will clean it up. So, one last thing on I did also I aggregated some data around best high schools in DuPage County, and you were close on Wheaton being one of the top ones in Naperville, but for high schools, Wheaton Warrenville South was number one, and Naperville Central was number two. So, and then Lake Park, where our office is at, was three. So those are kind of the top three high schools in DuPage County.
So here's I want to write that article for Chicago, but how do you judge that? Or what data points are we using to determine that?
How I did it was, so I did graduation rates crossed by the number of, because I guess they track this too, of like how many of those people go to college and graduate college. So I think they're basing it on that high school being the most solid baseline for you to be able to be successful later on. Yep. So those are the two things it was crossed by. And it looks like Tim fell off here, so I will hold the show. But yeah, if anyone wants to check this out, I will put the link to the one article that posted so far, and another article will end up posting here in the upcoming days. So, but I'll put that up there, and then yeah. So I am Tim fell off here. I'm not sure what happened to his internet. To add him back on here. Hopefully here he comes.
Sorry, I thought your answer was so bad. I just got
I didn't know what to do. I'm like, I wasn't sure what I was gonna have to do. I'm like, oh man, we have to figure out something on the fly here.
I noticed my face was like under my name, so I was trying to move my camera back, and I have a new laptop that's a touchscreen now, and apparently by pushing it, I clicked out. So, anyways, I'm back.
All right. One thing I'm excited about, there hasn't been too much new stuff I've heard about the whole build or the counter plan to the build plan. Have you heard anything new?
Nothing new. I mean, the build plan is getting a lot of push. The IAR and which is Illinois Realtors and Chicago Association of Realtors are pushing hard for it. So I think there's a lot of lobby support for it, and a lot of, obviously it's Pritzker's bill, so that adds a lot of support for it. It looks like it's going to be the winner. I think that the fact that there is another bill competing with it means that something's going to happen. Like the odds of all of them dying and none of them being picked up is low. once there's multiple bills. So
do you think they'll pass here? So the session, I think we talked about this last week, ends next Friday.
Yeah.
You think
I
anything will pass or even pass one of the houses here in the spring session?
I don't think that soon. I think we're probably waiting in September, and it's probably something that's going to take a while to happen. I mean, here's the question of what they're trying to solve or what they're trying to figure out for this bill. The competing philosophies, right? Are we worried about people owning homes, or are we worried about people having a roof over their head? Because right now we have an issue where people literally are struggling to find an apartment in Chicago, at least, and there's not enough apartments or homes or places just to live in, period. But the opposition of build right now is, hey, if we allow this, people are going to buy these single family homes and turn them into 3 flats everywhere, and then there won't be any houses to buy. So that's the counter argument to build. So we'll see that's, but I think there's a bigger problem with just the fact that there's not enough apartments in Illinois to house everyone. And it's causing prices to go up, and which is ultimately leading people to leave Illinois because there just isn't affordable housing in areas that people want to live in.
Well, I'll sort of throw a note. I did hear that this week on Cranes that Chicago's population is up like 500, a very small number, like 5,000 or something like that. So that's good. It's trending the right way. But on along that same path, I reached out to Brad Cole, who heads up the Illinois Municipal League. And the Illinois Municipal League is they're basically the Realtor Association for mayors, for cities, right? They're that type of coalition that represents the individual villages. And if anyone has big pushback to the build program, it's the IML. And I reached out to Brad Cole, who is the CEO. He did get back to me. I want to sit down with him and just kind of understand their angle from it, to understand the nuances of what they're looking to do or not do with this, or what they would actually back. So hopefully we'll have Brad on. And I was going to tell you the board that sits, the village president of Matson, Sheila Chalmers, actually is the president. So maybe somebody you reach out to have on one of your podcasts or whatever, and
yeah, for sure,
her point of view. So, but IML, I never really realized how much power they have in Springfield. So he reached back out to me, said, "Hey, how about session ends next week? We'll do something right after that." So I'm excited to have him on.
That's awesome.
That perspective.
Yeah. I think a lot of these villages. I mean, I don't know if you saw the whole video clip, which I know a lot of this is politics on this side of things, but there is a reality that it is actually a thing. But Brandon Johnson went down to Springfield last week to try to fight the Bears thing and some other stuff going on. And Pritzker's just like, we made the budget in November. Why is he like,
I saw those
all this time to chime in? What the hell? Like, dude, this has been done. So, but I think these villages, they spend a lot of time down there, at least send someone down there to fight for what they need. And, Cook County, DuPage, the Collar counties have a lot of that push because we're 60%, 70% of the population. So I think so. The other law, if you saw it at a national level, Trump's trying to stop institutional investing law just repassed the Senate. So it keeps bouncing back from the House to the Senate or the Senate to the House. Or no, sorry. It just passed the House again. So the House passed it. The Senate changed things. Then it went back to the House. And the House changed things. And now it's going back to the Senate. But the updated bill, for all those that have been following along, they've removed the fact that the Senate's version of the bill said that if you build properties for rent to own, you can do it as an institutional investor, but you have to sell them within 7 years. So that has now been removed. So it's basically, it's getting whittled down quite a bit. It's looking like it may just end up that if you own, I forget what the number was, it 100 houses?
I heard it got reduced down to 100 from 300.
Yeah. So 100, if you own 100 houses, you're considered institutional, and you're not allowed to buy a single family home unless it needs significant rehab and you're doing the rehab.
But they haven't put a definition on significant yet either.
Do you think they will?
Yeah, they almost have to. I don't know if it's a dollar amount or if it goes from uninhabitable to habitable. Maybe that's it. Then you're just gonna see a bunch of developers go rip out kitchens and
Right. They're
make the
going to
sellers
take
their
a
regular
picture
floor.
special and say, hey, can you remove the toilet so it's not habitable, and then I can buy
Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly.
It's
So
the whole it's the whole FHA, which I have always, since I was a little kid, and my parents, and I wasn't a little kid, I was like 17, and my parents sold our childhood house. I have found it hilarious, the fact that an FHA loan to remove, I grew up in a house that technically at some point was an apartment building or a two flat. So it's a very weird thing because it never should have been a two flat, but everything was set up as an apartment upstairs. And to pass FHA, we had to roll the stove into my bedroom for the day, and then it passed. And that has always been a thing. And since becoming a realtor, that was a thing, and I knew how to pass it. But I love the fact that that's all that they require is like, yeah, just throw a cap on it and roll it to the bedroom, and then we'll pass it, and then whatever. Like at that point, just let it go. Don't make that a rule.
I hear all the time people taking the stove and putting it in the illegal or non-conforming garden apartment, putting it in the garage for the day. So yeah, no, I've definitely heard that. Or moving the mattresses out if someone's living there, and just make it look like storage. And
Yeah,
that way they
yeah.
can call it storage. So yeah, no, that's crazy.
The other trick we've gotten away with this in the suburbs a couple of times, where we've had a room that wouldn't be a bedroom, and we went and got one of those IKEA portable closets and set it up, and we have gotten housing to give us the extra bedroom. So
oh, really?
It has a
when
window.
You say housing, you mean like
the county housing or CHA?
Oh, really?
Counting bedroom counts as the main thing. So if the room has a window but doesn't have a closet, it won't be considered a bedroom. But you can get a IKEA portable closet and oftentimes get it counted.
Gotcha. Now I wonder if the build plan or any of those. I mean, there's what one thing that does address that it hasn't been talked about much is, you have all the ADU talk and the new way that Chicago's handling it now as of April 2026, but now there's actually conversation around ADUs in the suburbs, and that has not happened yet. So that could help us out here for conforming some things that are not conforming, or just adding. Because think about it, there's just a lot of land out here. I mean, compared to the city, we have a lot of land to be able to throw up a second unit. Now, if anything, Los Angeles has done good is they loosened up their building restrictions, and they totally did away with, I wouldn't say did away, but their need to have build housing has gone down dramatically. Their homeless problem is a different problem than the ADU issue, but I mean, I know a guy that took a single family home and put 9 units in his backyard. Like the restrictions they took away is huge.
What was the story a couple of years ago? Like there's people in San Francisco that was renting out, like they were putting partition walls in a condo, and they would rent out a condo to like 10 different people. One bedroom condo, and it was just like, well, you have a bed and you can go use the toilet and the stove, but that's all you have, and they're still renting for $1,000 a piece.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
I think you need, I mean, we're gonna get to a point where the average rent, especially on the south side, right? Like we talk about a lot, right? Why do people still invest here is because the amount of rent that you get for the amount that you pay for the house is so incredibly high. We're going to get to a point where the average one bed is $1,800 to $2,000, even in a place where you don't need it, or a place where it's like you wouldn't think it should be so expensive. And I think we're going to have to see something like that, where are we renting out rooms, or are we renting out, like, people can only afford $400 or $500 for rent sometimes, and those options have gone away. So yeah, you're saying Beverly and Mount Greenwood. You want to read that comment again? Sorry, when I was talking while you put it up.
Yeah, it said in Southwest area, Beverly, Mount Greenwood, so much land for ADU. Alejandro shared that.
Yeah, but I mean, I can tell you with 95% certainty that and this is why I'm actually surprised that the aldermen aren't fighting the Build Act more, because they're going to hate it that they don't have, like, when Chicago made the ADU thing, the aldermen still have full control. It just allows them to do it. Mount Greenwood and Beverly is not, their aldermen and their constituents are not going to be too fond of a bunch of ADUs and a bunch of apartment buildings there.
My assumption, though, and maybe I'm totally wrong here, I thought I had a conversation, maybe it wasn't you. most of the time when Illinois makes a law, it has that provision where anyone with 1 million citizens can opt out, which is always Chicago. Do you not think there's going to be some sort of they'll do that? So
No,
Chicago,
build specifically eliminates that in the law.
really? So that would overrule
is
everything that just passed.
Yeah, the whole point of it is that you cannot overrule this law with homestead.
I figured the aldermen were not fighting that just because they were going to have that carve out.
No, it's got a car. No, it has a car. So the homestead rule isn't a carve out in laws. It's a carve out of any law the state passes. It counts for unless the law says no. But they've been because the whole point of this is to force these villages to allow 2 flats and stuff like that and ADUs. So they have a carve out to not carve out homestead, just like they did in the other law we talked about earlier for the junk fees. Gotcha.
All right. So we're wrapping up our time here this week. We're getting into this mid-season. It's almost summer. Just talk about some things, just kind of quick tips for investors listening here. You technically have to keep your boilers and your furnaces able to operate up until June 1st. And you have to maintain the temperatures per the city code. So that is a Chicago rule. So make sure that you're following that. What else is there this time of year that our listeners should be paying attention to for their properties?
I mean, we just did our annual gutter cleanings. I don't know if you do your spring and fall or just spring or how you do it, but with a lot of the storms that are happening right now or that we're getting, you don't want that to be clogged because that can cause a lot more issues if it causes a leak on the inside. So I'd say that's one. And again, I don't know if this one is spring, is a spring thing or it's just the fact that we do it in spring, but checking your laundry, your dryer vents, things like that, getting those cleaned, always good to at least do it once a year for fire safety. So I'll throw those 2 out.
Yeah, definitely. The dryer vents is a big one. It's an easy one. And a lot of times you could do it pretty easy, even if you do it yourself, if you had to, or you can hire a service that does for $85. But that's definitely a big one. Your water spigots might have been off and you get them back on or make sure they're off and no one can use them if you don't want them using them. The gutters, that's another great tip, especially, it ends up being one of those things. If you got a lot of trees on your property, like that's, you're going to probably you should be doing that and make sure that that's a good thing going into winter and summer if you have a lot of trees. So spring cleanup, no matter what, your tenant will never be upset if you don't, if you just kind of put a nice little cleanup to it. Maybe your landscaper comes out there for a few $100 and edges some things and cleans them up. And that's even if your owner is, your tenant is responsible for it. So it's just always, it's good for your neighbors, good for the neighborhood, all that stuff.
Yep.
And the final thing I just want to throw out there is AC. Getting your AC cleaned and tuned up or maybe even replaced right now. So the big thing I think that's happening this year for us already is the older AC units, they're not compatible with the newer furnace units. So if I have to I had to replace a furnace last week, that old AC unit from 2006 won't work with that furnace just for compatibility reasons. So we ultimately had to replace both of them. And you're going to run into these issues where if you have to replace your AC next year or this year, it could be the reverse thing. If you have a super old 2000 furnace that they won't be compatible together. And then also, if you have an older AC older than 2012, Freon's just getting crazy expensive per pound. And if you have to put 2 or 3 pounds of Freon this year, it costs you $500-$600. And that could just go towards your new unit that you invest in. So kind of keep in mind of repair versus replace. And be cautious of that.
I think knowing too, right? If an AC unit, what's the life on it? Is it 20 or is it 10?
No, I don't think. I think it ends up falling somewhere between 12 and 15.
12 and 15. Like if your AC unit's 16 years old, stop putting Freon in it. Like spend the money. like you're gonna waste that money for it to break anyways in 2 months. Just replace it and do it now before it gets super hot. The last one I'll throw out. I thought of one more. With it being spring, right? Pest control. If you have mice coming in and they're looking for food and stuff like that, this is the time where they are breeding. They breed all year long, but breeding is even higher as it gets warm because conditions are good. So if I think the number is if you start with 2 mice in your home and let it go for a year, that you'll end up with, I think, 12,000. in there. So, you want to make sure you're blocking holes, not letting them in, and doing some preventative stuff, making sure you're taking care of it as well if they are coming in.
Definitely. Blocking the hole is always big. I love the fact that a mouse can squeeze through something the size of I think it was a dime if it needed to. Like, that's crazy.
They have no bones. So if they can get their head through it and squeeze their head in, everything's compactable, and we'll squeeze in and out. So.
Oh, geez. Imagine if humans were like that. But so keep that in mind. And if you need to, for us, I know for my personal house and then some of our rentals, we have services that just spray the outside. So almost like it for the bugs and as a deterrent. So yeah, keep that in mind.
Get ahead of it. Your tenants will be happy and they'll stay longer. And the same thing with spray right now. Ants are big, at least in the south suburbs this time of year. So if you get that spray, you're less likely to see them.
Remember, we're all talking about ways to spend money and not make money in this kind of clip here. But at the end of the day, you bought this property and you had a maintenance line item. And these are some of the maintenance things that you should kind of do, because more than likely you're not at 6 or 8% maintenance. And these are some of the things that you should do that will help you not have bigger ticket items later on.
Yep.
Cool. And also keep in mind, like, AC unit will be more expensive next year than it is this year, just based on inflation.
Yep.
That's awesome, man. Tim, thank you as always. Listeners, if you guys have any questions, if you want to reach out to either myself or Tim anytime, always happy to help. We had somebody reach out this week that had some violations in city of Harvey through Markham, and I couldn't help him, but I sent him over and Tim referred and helped it out. So thanks, Tim, for tag teaming me with that. And then, anyone can reach out. And if you guys have any ideas for any other topics you want to hear about, any other tricks of the trade you want to learn about, we're always happy. We're open for the agenda. And if anything else, we will see you next week.